Hi, my name is Craig Case, and I will be your instructor for CORE300. And I'm very excited about being with you over the course of the next 5 weeks here during January and into the first week of February. And I just want to provide just a little bit of an introduction to myself and talk a little bit about my journey, since this class really is for us to reflect our own faith journeys and why is it that we look at the world the way we do. In other words, our worldview, how we understand reality. I've been teaching at Bethel for 10 years, and in fact celebrated my 10th year back in November. And it's my privilege to teach at Bethel, and I'm a teaching partner, which means I teach at least 10 to 11, sometimes 12, 13 classes a year. And most of my classes fall in the AAAS area, kind of like this class. And also I teach in Christian ministry. I teach writing theologically, and also leadership in ministry. But most of my classes, the majority of them, fall into writing. That's one of my areas that my expertise. I have an undergrad in English Lit from the University of Minnesota, and then also I have 2 master's degrees in MDiv from Bethel, which I received in 2000, and then I went back and received my MA in Christian Thought, which is a degree that looks at the relationship of theology with other disciplines like science and the humanities and other things like that. And then I'm also currently working, and I'll show you a little document here. This is simply one document of a pile that I'm reading this week as I'm working on my doctorate at Bethel in the area of narratives, narrative theology, how stories form us spiritually. So this class really is in my sweet spot and something I'm very passionate about. And as we go through this class, I think it's going to be important for us just to be transparent and vulnerable, even though this is an online class. And one of the best ways that I see in doing that is to establish trust. And I just want you to know that this is a class, even though online, that where we can trust each other, and that for us to be advocates for one another, as each of us are at different points in our spiritual journey, and there is no expectation that you have to be at a certain place. Each of us are at a different point in the spectrum, and God honors that, and God meets us where we're at. My story is this. I grew up in western Wisconsin in a small farm, and it was there that I came to faith in Jesus Christ at the age of 9. And a big part of that was the influence of my grandparents on my mom's side. Both of them were very involved in a church in southwestern Minnesota. And in fact, my grandmother taught Sunday school for 45 years. Just incredible ministry. And then also my mom was very involved in the church and would bring us to church 3 times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday nights, and then Wednesday nights. So a lot of my childhood and also junior high years were really spent in the church. And I had a lot of influences from people there, because my dad, my stepdad, my mom remarried when I was 4 years old. My stepdad wasn't a Christian at that time. He became a Christian later on when we lost our farm, but for many years he wasn't a Christian. In fact, he'd only come to church twice a week during Christmas or Easter. We call those Creasters. But he had a different view, and it was important for me, I think in a good way, to understand why he believed what he did, and then also obviously my mom's influence. So I really grew up with 2 different worldviews, and it was during college actually where I began to really walk away from faith my freshman and sophomore year. But then through the suicide of a best friend after a party that I was supposed to be at, and at that time I was very involved in the party scene in college, and it really woke me up that my life is short, we're not guaranteed forever, and that I wanted to make my life count. So at that point I really turned my life towards learning and academics. And after college, became a pastor. And I failed to mention at the beginning that I'm a senior pastor at Maple Grove Covenant Church. And I've been in full-time pastoral ministry in addition to teaching at Bethel, but I've been in full-time pastoral ministry for 25 years. And yet, there was something missing in my life. Even with college, achieving college, a degree, and being a pastor and going to seminary, there's still sort of a hole inside of me. Blaise Pascal, the French mathematician and philosopher, says that each of us has a God-sized hole in us. And there was a hole, there was a brokenness inside me, and it really resulted from not having contact or relationship with my biological father for many years. In fact, the last time I had saw him was when I was 13 years old, and that was very brief. But when I turned 30, when I graduated from Bethel with my first master's, something clicked inside me that wanted to reach out to my dad and try to have a relationship with him, because there were certain things that I was really struggling with, self-esteem and anxiety, and a good friend of mine thought it'd be good for me to connect with my dad, and perhaps that would help me with some of these struggles I was having. So I called him up after we actually took a while to find him, but I called him up, and that was a hard phone call, and I was very nervous and very unsure of how he'd receive me, and we agreed to have breakfast. So I brought my son, who was 5 years old at the time, and by the way, excuse the headphones, but my microphone is not working on my iPad without these headphones. But anyways, my son and I drove down to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and spent some time with my dad. And I thought, there it is. Everything's going to work out, and it's going to be happily ever after. And although I did have 2 to 3 really good years with him, we found out actually that he had an addiction to drugs. He lost his job, lost his house, lost his marriage, and then ceased to contact me, and it was evident that he didn't want to have a relationship with me. And when we come to those kind of moments in our lives, I call them crucible moments, C-R-U-C-I-B-L-E, crucible, as in the play written by Arthur Miller, The Crucible. But when we come to those crucible moments, we have a choice to make. Are we going to allow it to paralyze us? Are we going to allow it to impede us? And I know many people where that has happened, where some sort of circumstance has defined their life. And for me, it was really, I didn't want to stay where I was at with that. I didn't want to allow the loss of my father really define my life, that even though I was dealing with some emotional issues and such, I wanted to press forward. So with the help of a godly counselor, with the help of some really strong supportive friends, and also the church I was working at that time as a youth pastor, really helped me through that and helped me deal with those issues. And what I found was something very important for my testimony and my faith journey. And I think each of us have many different themes to our faith journeys, but for me, it was to turn my mourning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, something that I was mourning over, the loss of not having that relationship with my dad, but I actually turned my mourning into a mission and turned my loss into something that propels me to do something with my life in ministry. And as a result, I allowed it to help me be a better pastor, because I'm a type A and the strengths finder through the Gallup organization. My number one strength is achiever, so I love to achieve things. I'm competitive. But what happened through that ordeal is that it caused me to really slow down and understand that people really matter, and that relationships are very valuable. Because it's easy for me to blow past people and just to achieve things, but it allowed me to be a better friend. It also allowed me to be a better father. The 2 kids I have, who are now 20 and 22, as a result, during that time when they were growing up, and the loss of my own dad, I didn't want to repeat that in my own parenthood. So it really formed me and formed my fatherhood to be very available to my kids and to do what I can and even a simple breakfast or going out for a movie, not to overlook that. And also, I realized too that with the loss of my dad, biological father, at the same time, our Heavenly Father fills that vacuum. He fills that hole. And that's exactly what He's done. I've become closer to God as a Heavenly Father, as He's my Heavenly Father, excuse me, and I'm His son and His child. And I think as a result of the loss of my life, I draw and depend upon Him for Him to lead me and guide me. And I have a saying that has stayed with me during those challenges I faced with my dad, but also afterwards, is this about God. Where God guides, God provides. And that has been a big part of my life, and He has done that over and over and over again. Where He guides, He provides. So I pray that this class will be a blessing to you. Look forward to learning more about you as I read the discussion forums. And if there's anything I can do in this first week, let me know, and I'll provide more brief video updates than this one. This one's a little longer, but each week I'll just kind of check in so you can see my face, but I wanted you to see who I am, and that I'm very, very excited and very thrilled about this class, and I think you're going to find it very meaningful for you, whatever your major is, if it's business management or nursing or what have you. I think you're going to enjoy this class. Happy 2017.